Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be diving deep into something that could seriously level up your online business.
And it all revolves around a tool you may or may not have heard of before.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the name might sound a little futuristic, but
Yeah.
bear with us because this is one you're going to want to stick around for.
That's right. We're talking about Zapier.
Zapier. Okay,
Yeah.
so right off the bat, maybe you could break down for us exactly what Zapier is.
Sure. So imagine this. You have a digital robot.
Okay, a robot.
Yeah, a robot that can connect all of your favorite online tools and apps and have them talk to each other, doing all those tedious tasks for you automatically.
That sounds pretty amazing, and I think that's a good segue to mention that we're pulling our information today from a recent blog post.
Yeah, it was just published on February 11th, 2025.
Very recent. And it's from blogwidow.com. It's called Zapier, How It Can Be Useful for Your Online Business.
And it really does lay out a bunch of great information about how this tool can help you out.
So for those who haven't encountered it yet, could you give us like a quick rundown of what Zapier actually is?
Zapier is essentially an automation platform, and the blog post lays it out really nicely.
Okay, automation, so like putting things on autopilot.
Exactly. And it works by connecting different web applications that you use in your business and creating what they call zaps.
Zaps. All right, I'm intrigued. What exactly is a zap?
Well, think of a zap as an automated workflow.
Workflow.
Yeah, but it's triggered by a specific event. Like, let's say someone fills out a form on your website.
Right, like a contact form or something.
Exactly. And then because of this form submission, Zapier automatically sends that information to your email marketing service or your CRM.
Ah, so it's like a domino effect. One thing happens and it sets off this chain reaction.
You got it. It's all about automating those repetitive tasks that we all have to deal with.
And I gotta say, when I was reading the blog post, I was pretty blown away by how many apps Zapier actually integrates with.
Yeah, they have over 5,000 app integrations, which is just mind-boggling.
5,000. That's incredible. I mean, the chances of them having the apps I use is pretty high.
It's very likely. I mean, you've got your big names like Google Sheets, Shopify, MailChimp, you name it.
Wow, so it really seems like there's a Zap for almost anything you could think of.
Pretty much, and the post does a good job of highlighting just how many possibilities are out there.
I'm starting to see why everyone's so hyped about this.
It's a real game changer for a lot of people.
So we've talked about what Zapier is, this automation platform, these apps. But for someone who's never used it before, could you give us a real-world example of what one of these automated workflows, these apps, would look like in practice?
Sure, let's say you have an online store and someone makes a purchase.
Okay, pretty standard stuff for an online business.
Right. So instead of you having to manually go in and update your inventory, send a confirmation email, and then maybe add their info to your mailing list, a Zap could do all of that for you automatically.
Okay, so it's like having a little helper behind the scenes, taking care of all the busy work.
Exactly, and that's just one simple example. You can use Zaps to automate social media posts, track your expenses, manage your to-do list, you name it.
Wow, so it's really about freeing up your time and energy to focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. And the blog post actually shares a bunch of case studies where people are saving like hours every week by auditing their tasks with Zapier.
Hours. Okay, I'm definitely starting to see the appeal here, but let's be real. Every tool has its downsides, right?
Oh, absolutely. And to their credit, the Blog Widow post doesn't shy away from that.
So what are some of the weaknesses that they highlight about Zapier?
Well, the free plan is great for getting started, but it is limited in terms of how many zaps you can have and how many tasks you can automate each month.
Right, so if you're a heavy user, you might need to upgrade at some point.
Exactly, and that's something to keep in mind.
What else did the post have to say about potential drawbacks?
Well, they pointed out that while Zapier is very user-friendly for basic tasks, those more complex zaps, the ones with multiple steps and filters and conditions, they can take a bit of time to master.
Okay, so maybe not as simple as just clicking a button, but still potentially worth the effort if it saves you a ton of time in the long run.
Definitely. It's all about weighing the pros and cons and seeing what works best for you.
All right, so we've established that Zapier can save you time, it can handle a ton of different integrations, and it can help you stay organized.
And that's just scratching the surface.
But what are some of the other tangible benefits that this blog post highlights for someone running an online business?
One big one they emphasized is cost efficiency.
Okay, cost efficiency, that's always a good thing.
Right. And the post even suggested that in some cases, using Zapier can actually be more cost effective than hiring an additional employee to handle those repetitive tasks.
That's a compelling argument, especially for businesses that are just starting out or working with a tight budget.
Absolutely. And they also discussed how Zapier can help you level up your customer service, even when you're not personally available.
Oh, I'm intrigued. How does it do that?
Well, for instance, you could set up a Zap that automatically sends a welcome email to new subscribers or sends a personalized thank you note after someone makes a purchase, things like that.
Ah, okay. So it's like having those little touches automated, but still making people feel valued and appreciated.
Exactly. And those small gestures can go a long way in building customer loyalty.
You're right. It's often those little details that make the biggest difference in customer experience.
And on top of that, Zapier can even help you collect valuable data about your business. Every time a Zap runs, it's essentially creating a record of that event. So over time, you can analyze this data to understand how customers are interacting with your business, which workflows are working smoothly, and where you might need to make adjustments.
So it's like having a built-in data analyst constantly tracking things behind the scenes.
Pretty much. And that can be incredibly valuable when it comes to making informed decisions about your business strategy.
All right, so we've got time saving, cost effectiveness, improved customer service, and data analysis. It's starting to sound like a pretty impressive package.
It really is. But as with any tool, it's important to weigh the pros and cons and consider whether it's the right fit for your specific needs.
Well said. So let's shift gears a bit and talk more about those pros and cons.
Sounds good.
We've touched on a few limitations, like the limitations of the free plan and the potential complexity of some zaps. But what does the blog post say about Zapier's strengths?
Well, one of the biggest strengths they highlight is Zapier's user-friendliness. Even if you're not a tech whiz, you can pretty easily navigate the platform and build those zaps.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, they actually have a really intuitive drag-and-drop interface. And they even have pre-built templates for common tasks to kind of get you started.
That's great because I'll admit anything that involves like coding or programming, I tend to shy away from.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. Yeah.
But the nice thing about Zapier is that it takes all that complexity and hides it away.
Okay.
So you can just focus on what you want to automate, not necessarily how to do it technically.
So it's like it's doing all the behind-the-scenes work for you.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to another strength that I mentioned, which is that massive library of app integrations.
All right. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, the 5,000 plus apps.
Over 5,000. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a huge plus because it means you're not limited to just a handful of tools. You can connect virtually any app you use in your business.
It's like having a universal adapter that works with every plug in the world.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Because you're not stuck in one ecosystem, which is a huge advantage these days.
Right. Absolutely.
And they're constantly adding new integrations.
Okay.
So it's only going to get better.
So the possibilities really are kind of endless with this.
Yeah, and you can connect apps in ways you might not have even thought of before.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about the user-friendly interface, this huge app library, all the cool things that you can automate.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned earlier that those multi-step zaps
Yeah.
can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So the blog post actually gives this really good example. Imagine you sell products online
Okay.
and you want to automate your post-sale follow-up.
Okay, after someone buys something.
Yeah.
I'm following.
So someone makes a purchase from your Shopify store, and you could set up this multi-step Zap that does a bunch of things.
Okay.
First, it adds their information to your CRM.
Okay.
Then it sends them a personalized thank you email.
Okay.
And then maybe a week later, it sends them a reminder email to leave a review.
Ah, so it's not just one thing happening. It's like this whole chain of events.
Right. It's this whole sequence.
That's pretty cool.
And you can get even more fancy by adding filters and conditions to these.
Okay.
So, for example, you could set it up so only customers who spend over a certain amount get a discount code in that follow-up email.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
you can really customize it to
Okay.
target specific customer behaviors and things like that.
That's really cool.
And while setting these up might take a little more effort up front, the time and energy that you save in the long run is well worth it.
Yeah, you're working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
But let's flip the script for a moment here.
Okay.
Earlier, we were talking about how Zapier can maybe make things feel a little bit impersonal, especially when you're dealing with customer interactions.
Yeah.
So how can we, as business owners, make sure that we're using automation ethically?
That's a great question, and it's something that a lot of people are thinking about these days.
Mhm.
And to be honest, the blog post didn't really dive deep into the ethics of automation,
Okay.
but they did emphasize that you should always be mindful of how you're using it.
So it's not about automating everything.
Right.
It's about choosing what to automate
Exact.
and being strategic about it.
Exactly. You don't want to lose that human touch. So maybe you automate things like order confirmations or appointment reminders, but then save the more complex or sensitive interactions,
Okay.
like customer complaints for an actual human.
Yeah, where you need that empathy.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all about finding the right balance.
Finding the right balance, that's it.
So with all that we've learned, would you say that Zapier is a must-have for every online business?
Well, the blog post concluded that it really depends on your individual needs and how you're currently managing your workflows.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution.
Not necessarily.
But for those of us who are constantly feeling overwhelmed by all the moving parts of running an online business.
It's definitely worth exploring.
Okay.
Think about it this way. What are those repetitive tasks that are taking up all your time and energy?
Oh my gosh, I could list a dozen off the top of my head. Managing social media, updating spreadsheets, sending follow-up emails.
All right.
All that stuff.
And those are all tasks that could be automated with Zapier.
Yeah, that would free up a lot of time.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say someone's totally new to Zapier.
Yeah.
Where would you even begin?
The blog post had a really good suggestion. They said, start with a simple zap.
Okay, start small.
Start small. Don't try to automate everything at once.
Right.
Pick one small task that's been bugging you
Okay.
and see if you can create a zap to handle it.
That's a good starting point.
And then you can kind of build from there.
Right. Get comfortable with the platform.
And don't be afraid to experiment. Zapier has a really forgiving interface, so you can always tweak things and adjust your zaps until they're working just the way you want them to.
It's like a digital playground for your business.
That's a good way to put it.
And they have good customer support, right?
Oh, yeah, they have fantastic customer support, and they have a ton of helpful resources on their website.
Okay, that's reassuring.
So you're not left hanging if you do run into any issues.
Awesome. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the ins and outs of Zapier, its pros and cons. We even touched on some ethical considerations.
It's been a good conversation.
It has. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are some final takeaways that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is that it's not just about saving time.
Yeah.
It's really about, I think, empowerment.
Empowerment, okay.
You're taking control of your workflows. We're optimizing your processes.
Yeah.
And you're freeing up your mental space to focus on what really matters.
So it's like you're giving yourself permission to kind of step back from the day-to-day grind.
Exactly. And let the robots handle it.
Yeah. Have those little robots working for you in the background.
Exactly. And that peace of mind, I think, can be invaluable.
Especially for business owners.
Yeah, entrepreneurs
If
especially.
you were constantly juggling like a million things at once.
Exactly. And the blog post also highlighted how seamlessly Zapier integrates with tools you're probably already using.
Oh, yeah. Could you give some specific examples of how that works in real life?
Yeah, so let's say you're using Google Sheets to track your expenses.
Okay. Makes sense.
You could set up a Zap that automatically pulls in sales data from your Shopify store. So you don't have to manually enter all that information.
So it's like all your different tools are suddenly talking to each other.
Exactly. They're all in sync.
Working together in perfect harmony.
And that can have this ripple effect, right? Across your whole business.
Yeah.
You're breaking down those silos between different departments and just creating this more streamlined and efficient workflow.
And the blog post also made a point of mentioning how Zapier can really help boost your customer service game.
Yeah.
Could you remind us how that works?
Sure. So let's say you're using something like MailChimp for your email marketing.
Okay. Yeah.
You can set up a Zap that automatically adds new subscribers from your website to a specific email list.
Okay.
So you don't have to manually import and export lists.
It's all happening behind the scenes.
Exactly. And it ensures that they're getting the right welcome sequence.
So you're nurturing those relationships right from the start.
Right from the very beginning.
Even if you're not physically sitting there.
Even when you're sleeping, Zapier is working.
That's the dream.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing how those small gestures can really impact customer loyalty.
It really can. Yeah. People appreciate that personal touch.
Okay, so to recap here, we've learned that Zapier can save you time, boost your productivity, streamline your workflows, enhance your customer service, and even help you collect valuable data.
It's a pretty powerful tool.
It sounds like it.
But, you know, like with any tool, it's important to approach automation thoughtfully and ethically.
Right. It's not just about automating for the sake of automating.
Exactly.
It's about doing it in a way that makes sense for your business.
And doesn't sacrifice the customer experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive here, I'd like to leave our listeners with one final maybe thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like it.
The blog post didn't mention this specifically, but it's something that I was thinking about as we were talking.
Hmm.
What if, by automating all these kind of mundane tasks,
Yeah.
we're actually freeing up our mental energy and our creativity
Oh, interesting.
to focus on the things that really matter, the things that only we as humans can do,
I love that.
like that human connection, that creativity.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful thought, and
Yeah.
it gets at the heart of what automation is all about.
Mhm.
That's not about replacing humans,
Yeah.
it's about amplifying what we can do.
Giving us the space to do what we do best.
Exactly, to innovate, to connect, to create.
Absolutely. So, as you go forth on your entrepreneurial journey, dear listener, remember that automation can be a powerful ally.
A powerful ally.
Use it wisely,
Yeah.
ethically, and use it to unlock your full potential.
And who knows, maybe you'll discover some brilliant new ways to use Zapier that we haven't even thought of yet.
The possibilities are endless. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep sapping your way to success.